Felicity Washington had been in Seoul for 3 days, and she was already tired of being invisible. She laughed anyway, one hand wrapped around her second glass of wine, the other gesturing as she spoke to her colleague Jennifer in the luxury hotel bar overlooking Gangnam's glittering skyline. The nursing conference had been exhausting, but Seoul was gorgeous, and for the first time in years, she felt free. "Girl, I'm just saying what my roommate told me before I left Atlanta." Jennifer leaned in, her voice dropping to that conspiratorial whisper women use when discussing men. She said Korean men don't like thick women. Like it's a cultural thing. All those K-pop idols are tiny. Felicity snorted, her southern accent thickening with the wine. "So I flew 5,000 miles to a country where I'm not even on the menu? Great. I mean, you're gorgeous, Fel, but maybe their beauty standards are just different. I know." Felicity smiled, but something hollow settled in her chest. 32 years of being told she was too much, too thick, too loud, too black. And here it was again, wrapped in concern and wine-soaked honesty. What she didn't know was that Lee Byung-chul sat in the private booth directly behind her, and he'd heard every single word. What she couldn't possibly know was that he'd been watching her for 3 days, studying her laugh, memorizing the way she moved through conference halls, obsessing over the curve of her hips in ways that made him forget every rule he'd built his empire on. What she definitely didn't know was that his rival had noticed his obsession and was about to make it everyone's problem. Felicity turned to signal the bartender for the check, and that's when she collided with 6 feet of solid muscle, wrapped in a custom Tom Ford suit. His hands caught her waist, steadying her. The contact sent electricity through her body like she'd touched a live wire. She looked up. Dark eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her forget her own name. The man was devastating. Sharp jawline, black hair pushed back carelessly, and a tiger tattoo crawling up his neck that screamed danger. Black ink and sharp lines with Korean calligraphy woven through the beast's stripes. His fingers were still on her waist, burning through the fabric of her dress. His gaze dropped, just for a heartbeat, tracking the curve of her hips beneath his palms, the fullness of her thighs, the way her body filled space like it was meant to command it. When his eyes returned to hers, they were darker, hungry. Sorry, I didn't see," Felicity stammered. "You're wrong." His voice was low, accented, absolutely certain. "What?" "Korean men absolutely appreciate beautiful women." His thumb brushed against her hip, deliberate, possessive. "Especially those who don't realize their own power." Felicity's mouth went dry. The way he was looking at her, like she was water and he'd been dying of thirst, like her curves were, exactly what he'd been searching for, made her skin flush hot. The first gunshot shattered the windows and the moment simultaneously. Byung-chul slammed into her, taking her down to the marble floor with controlled force that knocked the air from her lungs. His body covered hers completely, one arm cradling her head to protect it from the impact. Screams erupted around them. Glass rained down like deadly snow. More gunshots, 3, 4, 5, ripped through the bar's elegant ambiance. "Stay down." The command came in perfect English, his voice terrifyingly calm against her ear. Felicity's heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. The weight pinning her shifted as Byung-chul tracked someone, with the focused intensity of a predator. She caught a glimpse of his face. He wasn't scared. He was calculating. More gunshots. Closer this time. Before Felicity could process anything, Byung-chul hauled her up with one arm and half-dragged, half-carried her toward the back of the bar. His grip on her waist was iron, like he'd done this before, like he knew exactly how to move a body through chaos. "My friend." "My men have her. She's safe." He kicked open a service door she hadn't even noticed, revealing a concrete stairwell plunging into darkness. "Move. Now." Something in his tone, absolute authority wrapped in deadly calm, made her obey. Felicity stumbled down the stairs, her conference heels catching on the steps. Behind them, men shouted in Korean, their voices sharp with violence and urgency. "Who are you?" Felicity gasped, her nursing training trying to catalog her own symptoms: racing pulse, cold sweat, the metallic taste of adrenaline. Someone who just made your life very complicated. He yanked her around a corner, then pressed her against the concrete wall, his body caging hers as footsteps thundered past their hiding spot. This close, she could see more ink decorating his forearms beneath rolled sleeves, the tiger's tail wrapping down from his neck, more Korean calligraphy flowing along his wrists like warnings she couldn't read. The footsteps faded. He didn't move. Felicity became acutely aware of everywhere they touched, his chest against hers, his thigh pressed between her legs for balance, his breath warm against her temple. Her mind screamed she should be terrified. Her body registered something else entirely, something dark and reckless that made her pulse race for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. "They're gone," she whispered. "No, they're regrouping." His jaw clenched, and she noticed a thin scar cutting through his eyebrow, a story she'd never hear. "We have maybe 2 minutes." "Until what?" He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes, and what Felicity saw there made her breath catch. Regret, possession, something dark and hungry that should have sent her running. "Until they realize you're with me," he said quietly. "And then they'll hunt you because I'm the only thing standing between you and a bullet. I don't even know you. Lee Byung-chul." He said it like a confession, like a death sentence. The name meant nothing to Felicity, but the way he said it, with resignation and something almost like apology, made her stomach drop. Because here's what Felicity didn't know yet. The man pressed against her in a dark stairwell wasn't just dangerous. He was Seoul's most wanted, and she'd just become his greatest weakness. If you're already feeling that dangerous pull between these two, hit subscribe, because Byung-chul's obsession is only getting darker, and Felicity's about to discover exactly who she's dealing with. He was already moving again, pulling her through a maze of service corridors that eventually opened into an underground parking garage. A black Range Rover sat idling near the exit, flanked by 2 men in dark suits who looked like they ate violence for breakfast. "Get in," Byung-chul opened the back door. "Absolutely not." Felicity planted her feet, her southern stubbornness finally overriding her shock. "I'm calling the police, the embassy. You're getting in this car, Felicity Washington, or you're getting a bullet in that beautiful head." His voice dropped to something dark and final. "Your choice." She froze. Her heart stuttered. "How do you know my name?" But Byung-chul was already lifting her, actually lifting her like she weighed nothing despite her curves, and depositing her into the leather interior. He slid in beside her, and the door slammed shut with the finality of a prison cell. The Range Rover peeled out of the garage with controlled speed that suggested the driver had done this many times before. Felicity pressed herself against the opposite door, hands shaking as she tried to process the last 10 minutes of her life. "Seatbelt," Byung-chul said softly. "You just kidnapped me." "I just saved your life." He reached across her, his arm brushing her chest as he grabbed the seatbelt and clicked it into place. The casual intimacy of the gesture made her skin burn. Consider this protective custody. From what? He turned to face her fully, and in the dim interior lighting, Felicity finally saw him clearly. Mid-30s, impossibly handsome in that sharp-edged way that came with violence and power. The tiger tattoo on his neck was just the beginning. More ink disappeared beneath his collar, the beast's body wrapping around his collarbone with Korean calligraphy, marking his skin like ancient armor, like promises written in a language of violence. "From everyone who wants to hurt me through you." His hand moved like he wanted to touch her face, then stopped, clenched into a fist instead, like he was fighting himself. 3 days ago, I saw you in the hotel lobby. You were laughing at something on your phone and you didn't notice me watching. You never noticed." Felicity's throat went tight. "That's not... You can't just... I tracked every conference session you attended, every meal, Every moment you smiled at this city." His voice was raw confession. "And my rival noticed. He always notices when I want something I shouldn't have." The Range Rover merged into Seoul's nighttime traffic, carrying her away from everything familiar and into a world she didn't understand. "I'm sorry, Felicity." Byung-chul's eyes held hers with an intensity that made her feel stripped bare. "But you became mine the moment I decided you were worth burning my world down for, and now everyone knows it." What terrified Felicity most wasn't the gunfire or the kidnapping or even the dangerous stranger beside her. It was the way her name sounded in his mouth, like a prayer and a possession all at once, and the fact that some dark, reckless part of her wanted to hear him say it again. Byung-chul's penthouse occupied the top 3 floors of a building in Hanam-dong, where Seoul's wealthiest kept their secrets behind bulletproof glass and armed security. Felicity barely registered the marble lobby or the private elevator that required both a keycard and fingerprint scan. Her mind was still stuck in that Range Rover, replaying his words on an endless loop. "You became mine the moment I decided you were worth burning my world down for." The elevator doors opened directly into his apartment, and Felicity's breath caught despite everything. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased Seoul's glittering skyline like a painting, modern furniture in blacks and grays, Korean art on the walls, and everywhere the sense that violence lived here, controlled but never truly contained. "Your room is upstairs." Byung-chul moved past her, shrugging off his jacket. The movement revealed more of his tattoos, the tiger's body wrapping around his shoulder, Korean calligraphy flowing down his spine beneath the white dress shirt. Felicity's eyes tracked the ink before she could stop herself, wondering what the characters meant, wondering what his skin would feel like under her fingers. She blinked hard. What the hell was wrong with her? "Second door on the left," he continued, oblivious to her thoughts. "Everything you need is already there." Felicity's hands clenched into fists. "I'm not staying here." "Yes, you are." He poured whiskey from a crystal decanter, his movements precise, like he hadn't just kidnapped someone. "Until the threat is neutralized." "What threat? You keep saying that, but—" "Park Min-ho." Byung-chul drained half the glass. "My rival. He saw me watching you yesterday. Today he sent men to kill you in front of me, to prove he could." The clinical way he said it made Felicity's stomach turn. "This is insane. I'm calling the embassy." She reached for her purse, but it wasn't there. Of course it wasn't. Byung-chul pulled her phone from his pocket, held it up. "Go ahead, call them. Tell them you're being held by Lee Byung-chul." His smile was sharp, dangerous. "See how fast. They tell you to cooperate with whatever I want." "You're bluffing." "I own half the pharmaceutical supply chain in Asia, the legitimate half." He set her phone on the counter between them. "The embassy knows exactly who I am. You think they'll risk that relationship for one American nurse?" Felicity grabbed her phone anyway, fingers shaking as she pulled up Jennifer's number. It rang once before a man answered. Not Jennifer. A man speaking Korean, his tone completely wrong. "What did you do to her?" Felicity's voice cracked. "She's at her hotel, sleeping off the sedative my doctor gave her for shock." Byung-chul took the phone from her hand, ended the call. His fingers brushed hers, and the contact sent heat up her arm that she absolutely did not want to feel. "She'll wake up tomorrow thinking she survived a random shooting. She's safe. You drugged my friend. I protected your friend. Min-ho's men were tracking her, too. Now they know I didn't hide you with her, which means she's useless to them." His voice hardened. "She gets to go home. You don't. Not yet." The logic was sound and absolutely horrifying. Felicity backed away, her nursing training finally kicking in. Exits. Elevator. Locked. Windows. Too high. Captor. Calm. Bigger. Clearly trained. Her advantages, none. But here's what Felicity didn't know yet. While she was cataloging escape routes, Byung-chul was making calls that would turn Seoul's underworld upside down. because protecting her meant declaring war, and he'd already decided she was worth it. I need you to understand something. Byung-chul moved toward her slowly. 3 days ago, I made a mistake. What mistake? I looked at you. His voice dropped, rough. I saw you in the lobby laughing at your phone, and I looked, and I kept looking, and Min-ho noticed because he notices everything about me. Felicity's back hit the wall. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could smell sandalwood and whiskey, close enough to see the muscle ticking in his jaw. So you stalked me. I researched you. Felicity Washington, Atlanta, pediatric nurse. You volunteer every Sunday. You sing off-key in the shower. Each detail felt like an invasion. You're terrified of butterflies, but not of blood. Her chest tightened. How? I have resources, and the more I learned about you, the more I... He stopped, exhaled slowly. It doesn't matter now. What matters is keeping you alive until I eliminate the threat. By eliminate, you mean kill him. Yes. No hesitation, no remorse. Here's what Felicity should have felt. Pure fear, desperate need to escape. Here's what she actually felt. Curiosity about why this dangerous man's expression cracked when he talked about looking at her, why his hands stayed clenched at his sides like he was fighting the urge to touch her. I didn't ask for this, she whispered. I know. Something in his expression softened. But you have it, anyway. Me. This situation. All of it. A phone buzzed. Byung-chul checked the screen, and his entire demeanor shifted. Cold. Lethal. The businessman vanished, replaced by something that made her understand exactly why people feared him. What? Felicity's pulse spiked. Min-ho just posted your photo on the dark web. His voice was dead calm, which was more terrifying than rage. 2 million won for information on your location. 5 million for delivery. Alive. The room tilted. Why alive? Because he knows you're worth more to me breathing. Byung-chul's jaw clenched. This isn't about hurting me anymore. This is about taking what's mine. The possessive way he said, mine, should have made her angry. Instead, it made her skin flush hot. I'm not yours. Tell that to the 50 assassins who just got your photo. He moved closer, and Felicity's breath caught. Tell that to Min-ho, who's going to use you to destroy everything I've built. Another step. Tell that to me when I'm the only thing standing between you and men who get paid to make people disappear. This is insane. This is reality. He was right in front of her now, his presence overwhelming. Your reality now. Because I looked at you, and I couldn't stop, and now everyone knows it. Felicity's hands pressed flat against the wall behind her. How much? What? How much am I worth to you? The question hung between them, dangerous and electric. Byung-chul's hand moved to the wall beside her head, caging her in, not touching, but close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off his body. Everything, he said quietly, his eyes locked on hers with that same intensity from the bar. You're worth everything. And that's the problem, Felicity, because the moment I decided that, I made you the most dangerous woman in Seoul. His other hand cupped her jaw, tilting her face up. The touch was gentle, reverent, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. His skin was warm, calloused, and Felicity's pulse hammered so hard she knew he could feel it. I'm sorry, Byung-chul whispered, and she realized with a jolt that he meant it. But I'm not letting you go. Felicity didn't sleep. How could she, when every time she closed her eyes, she saw gunfire and felt Byung-chul's hands on her waist, when her body couldn't decide if it was terrified or inexplicably drawn to the man who'd kidnapped her. The guest room he'd given her was larger than her entire Atlanta apartment. King bed with silk sheets, attached bathroom with a soaking tub, and a closet already filled with clothes in her exact size. That last part made her stomach twist. He'd planned this, prepared for her. At dawn, she gave up on sleep and showered, trying to wash away the previous night. It didn't work. Nothing could wash away the memory of his thumb on her cheekbone, the way he'd said everything like it was both confession and threat. She found clothes that fit perfectly, black leggings, an oversized cream sweater, and hated how good his taste was. Downstairs, Byung-chul stood in the kitchen cooking breakfast. No suit this morning, just black pants and a thin white t-shirt that clung to his shoulders and back, revealing the full scope of his tattoos. The tiger wrapped around his shoulder and down his spine, Korean calligraphy flowing along his ribs. Felicity's eyes traced the ink before she could stop herself, following the lines of muscle shifting beneath fabric as he moved. She swallowed hard. This was not the time to notice how his body looked. "You cook?" Her voice came out rougher than intended. He glanced over his shoulder and something flickered in his eyes when he saw her wearing the clothes he'd chosen. "You didn't think I survived on takeout and threats?" Despite everything, her lips twitched. The thought crossed my mind. "Sit." He gestured to the island. "You didn't eat last night." "I was too busy being kidnapped." "Protective custody," he corrected, sliding a plate in front of her. Kimchi fried rice, perfectly fried egg on top, side of fresh fruit. The domestic normalcy of it felt surreal and far too intimate. But what Felicity didn't know yet was that this moment, this quiet breakfast, would be the last peaceful thing she'd experience for a very long time. Because Min-ho wasn't just coming for her. He was coming to dismantle everything Byung-chul had built, piece by bloody piece. Felicity stared at the food. "Is it drugged? If I wanted you unconscious, I'd have done it already." Byung-chul poured coffee, prepared exactly how she liked it, cream and 2 sugars. Because of course, he knew, eat. You're going to need your strength. For what? For understanding exactly who I am. He leaned against the counter across from her, coffee cup in hand, and she tried not to notice how the morning light cut across his features. "And what you've walked into." Something in his tone made her pick up the fork. The rice was perfect, spicy, savory, the egg yolk mixing into everything. She hated that it was delicious. "You researched me," Felicity said between bites. "Tell me something you learned that's not creepy stalker material." His mouth quirked. "You keep a photo in your locker at work. You talk to it sometimes when you've lost a patient." Her throat tightened. "That's still stalker material." "You asked." He set down his coffee, moved around the island. Felicity's pulse kicked up as he stopped beside her, close enough that she could smell sandalwood and coffee. "But I'll give you something else. You're stronger than you think you are. Most people would still be hysterical. You're sitting here making jokes. Who says I'm joking? Your hands are shaking." Felicity looked down. He was right. She set down the fork, pressed her palms flat against the cool marble. "What do you want from me?" "I want you alive." Byung-chul's voice dropped. "Everything else is negotiable." "Then let me go." "Can't do that." "Won't do that." Same result. He was so close now she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. The intensity there made her breath catch. "Min-ho won't stop until he has you or I'm dead. Those are the only 2 outcomes he'll accept." "Then give me to him." The words came out before she could stop them. Byung-chul's expression went dark, dangerous. His hand shot out, gripping her chin, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough that she couldn't look away. "Say that again." I heard what you said." His thumb pressed against her lower lip, and heat flooded through Felicity's body. "And I'm telling you now, that will never happen. You don't get to sacrifice yourself, not for me, not for anyone. You don't own me. No." His eyes burned into hers, his thumb still tracing her bottom lip in a way that made thinking impossible. "But I'll burn down Seoul before I let him touch you, so get that option out of your head right now." The intensity in his voice made something hot and dangerous unfurl in Felicity's stomach. She should pull away, should slap his hand off her face, should do anything except sit there feeling her skin burn where he touched her, noticing how his breathing had changed, how close his mouth was to hers. "Why?" Felicity whispered. "Why am I worth all this?" Byung-chul's jaw clenched. His hand dropped from her face like the contact had burned him, and he took a step back. Because 3 days ago, I saw you laugh, and something in me that's been dead for 15 years woke up. Because you look at this city like it's magic instead of a cage. Because you're terrified of butterflies, but you walk into rooms full of sick children every day without hesitation. His voice roughened. Because you're everything I didn't know I was missing, and I'm selfish enough to keep you even though it puts you in danger. The confession hung between them, raw and honest. That's not fair, she said. I know. You can't just... People don't work like that. You can't decide someone is yours after 3 days. I can. He moved back to the counter, gripped the edge hard enough his knuckles went white. I did, and now we both have to live with it. What if I don't want this? But even as Felicity said it, she knew it was a lie. Some reckless part of her wanted exactly this, wanted to be the center of someone's consuming intensity. Then you're free to hate me. Byung-chul's phone buzzed. He checked it, and his entire body went rigid. But you'll hate me from here, where you're safe. What is it? The temperature in the room dropped. Byung-chul moved with sudden deadly purpose, pulling a gun from a drawer she hadn't noticed. Get upstairs. Lock yourself in the panic room, behind the closet in your bedroom. Code is 0723. Ice flooded Felicity's veins. What's happening? They're here. His voice was dead calm as he checked the gun's magazine. Minho's men, in the building. How? Doesn't matter. He grabbed her arm, pulled her toward the stairs, his grip firm but not painful. Panic room, now, don't come out until I get you. What if you don't... He spun her around, both hands framing her face. For one heartbeat, they just stared at each other, his eyes dark and desperate, hers wide with fear she couldn't quite name. Then he kissed her, hard, desperate, like he was memorizing the taste of her mouth. Felicity gasped against his lips, and he took the opportunity to deepen the kiss, one hand sliding into her hair while the other pressed against the small of her back, pulling her against him. She should push him away, should not be kissing the man who kidnapped her. But her hands fisted in his t-shirt, holding him closer as he kissed her, like the world was ending and she was the last thing he wanted to feel. When he pulled back, they were both breathing hard. I'll come for you, Byung-chul said, his forehead pressed against hers. I promise. But if I don't, there's a phone in the panic room. Call the number programmed as insurance. He'll get you out. Byung-chul... Footsteps echoed in the stairwell. Men's voices speaking rapid Korean, getting closer. Go, now! Felicity ran, her lips still burning from his kiss, her heart hammering for reasons that had nothing to do with the men coming to kill them. Felicity's hands shook so badly she could barely enter the code. 0723. The closet wall clicked, swinging inward to reveal a steel-reinforced room no bigger than a walk-in closet. Monitors lined one wall, showing security feeds of the entire penthouse. A phone sat on a small table. Bottled water, protein bars, everything someone would need to survive. She locked herself inside, heart hammering as she turned to the monitors, and watched Byung-chul go to war. 6 men poured into the penthouse from the stairwell, armed with guns and knives. Byung-chul met them in the living room, and what Felicity saw made her stomach drop. This wasn't self-defense. This was execution. He moved like violence was a language he'd been fluent in since birth. One man went down with a bullet between the eyes. Another caught an elbow to the throat before Byung-chul broke his arm and took his weapon. The tiger tattoo on his neck seemed to move with him, predatory and lethal. 3 more men flooded in. Byung-chul didn't hesitate, didn't flinch. He was a storm of controlled brutality, and Felicity couldn't look away. She should be horrified. She was horrified, but she was also something else, something darker that whispered he was doing this for her, protecting her with the kind of savage devotion she'd never experienced. One man got past his guard, blades slashing across Byung-chul's ribs. Blood bloomed through his white t-shirt, but he barely reacted. Just grabbed the man's wrist, twisted until something cracked, and put a bullet in his knee. Where is she? Byung-chul's voice came through the monitors, cold and absolutely terrifying. He pressed his boot against the man's wounded knee. The scream that followed made Felicity flinch. "Where's Minho?" The man spat something in Korean. Byung-chul applied more pressure until the man was sobbing, words tumbling out desperately. Then Byung-chul shot him in the head. Felicity's hand flew to her mouth. The clinical efficiency of it, extracting information, then eliminating the threat, should have sent her running. But here's the thing about Felicity Washington that even she didn't fully understand yet. She'd spent 32 years being told she was too much, too loud, too thick, too bold. And now she'd found a man who looked at her like she was exactly enough, who'd kill for her without hesitation. That kind of devotion was addictive, dangerous, everything she'd been taught to run from, and she wanted more of it. The monitors showed the penthouse littered with bodies. Byung-chul stood in the center of the carnage, blood on his hands and soaking through his shirt. He looked up at the camera, looked directly at where he knew she was watching, and his expression shifted. The monster vanished. The man who'd kissed her like she was oxygen returned. He pressed his hand to the intercom. "It's over. You can come out." Felicity's fingers trembled as she unlocked the panic room. The closet, the bedroom, the hallway, all untouched. But downstairs was a crime scene. She found him in the kitchen, cleaning blood off his hands in the sink like he'd just finished cooking dinner instead of executing 6 men. The wound on his ribs still bled, but he ignored it. "You're hurt," Felicity heard herself say. "I'm fine." "You're bleeding through your shirt. That's not fine." Her nursing training overrode everything else. "Sit down. Let me look at it." "Felicity, sit down." She used her hospital voice, the one that made grown men obey. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe respect. He sat on a bar stool, and Felicity moved between his legs, trying to ignore how intimate the position felt. His hands came to rest on her hips, steadying her. She lifted his ruined t-shirt, and her breath caught. The knife wound was deep, 4 inches across his ribs, but that wasn't what made her freeze. It was the scars, dozens of them, layered across his torso like a road map of violence. Bullet wounds, knife marks, what looked like burns. "Jesus," she whispered, "what happened to you?" "I survived." Byung-chul's voice was quiet. "That's what happened." Felicity pressed gauze against the fresh wound, applying pressure. He didn't flinch. "You need stitches, a hospital?" "I have a doctor on call. He'll be here in 20 minutes. His hands tightened on her hips. "But I need you to understand something first." "What?" "What you just watched on those monitors. That's who I am. Not the man who cooks breakfast. This." He gestured at the carnage. "This is what I do, what I've always done." Felicity met his eyes. He was giving her an out, showing her the monster so she'd run. But what Byung-chul didn't know was that Felicity had already made her choice the moment she'd walked down those stairs instead of calling for extraction. And what she was about to tell him would change everything between them. "I know who you are," she said softly, still applying pressure. "I watched you. I saw what you did. And you're still bleeding on my hands, so sit still and let me help you." Byung-chul stared at her like she'd spoken a language he didn't understand. "You should be running." "Probably." Felicity grabbed more gauze. "But I'm not. So either accept that or explain to your doctor why you bled out because you were too stubborn." "You watched me kill 7 men?" "7?" Her hands paused. "1 died on the stairs." He said it matter-of-factly. Felicity's stomach twisted. 7 lives ended in minutes. 7 people who'd never go home. But they'd come here to kill her, to hurt Byung-chul, and he'd stop them. The moral lines she'd always lived by were blurring, reshaping themselves around this impossible situation. She secured the gauze with medical tape. "This'll hold until your doctor gets here. You need proper stitches and antibiotics." "Yes, ma'am." The way he said it, with amusement and something darker, made heat pool low in her stomach. She was standing between his legs, hands on his bare, blood-stained skin, and he was looking at her like she was the most fascinating thing he'd ever seen. "Stop that," she said. "Stop what?" "Looking at me like that." "Like what?" His hands slid up to her waist, thumbs brushing skin where her sweater had ridden up. "Like you want to—" Felicity's breath caught as he pulled her closer. "Like I want to kiss you again?" Byung-chul's voice dropped, rough. "Too late. I do. I have since the moment you walked down those stairs this morning. You just killed 7 people. Does that change what you feel right now?" And that was the question, wasn't it? Because the terrifying truth was, it didn't change anything. Watching him fight for her, seeing exactly how far he'd go, had made the pull between them even stronger. "I don't know what I feel," she admitted. "Yes, you do." His forehead pressed against hers. "You feel the same thing I do. This impossible, dangerous thing neither of us asked for. This is insane. I know." His breath was warm against her lips. "But I'm not letting you go. Not now. Not after this." The private elevator dinged. Felicity started to pull back, but Byung-chul's hands kept her in place. "Doctor," he said. Then his eyes locked on hers with that burning intensity. "But Felicity, thank you for staying, for not running." The elevator doors opened. A middle-aged man in an expensive suit stepped out, medical bag in hand. He took one look at the bodies in the living room and sighed. "Byung-chul, you're making a habit of this." His Korean-accented English was crisp, professional. "Nice to see you too, Dr. Kim." Byung-chul's phone buzzed. He checked it, and every muscle in his body went rigid. "We have a problem." Dr. Kim paused. "Worse than 7 corpses in your living room?" "Minho has Felicity's colleague, Jennifer." Byung-chul's voice was ice. "He's offering a trade, her life for Felicity." The room tilted. Felicity's hands gripped his shoulders. "What?" Byung-chul's eyes met hers, and what she saw there made her blood run cold, because she realized in that moment exactly what he was going to do. And it involved using her as bait. "No." Felicity's voice came out stronger than she felt. "Absolutely not. You are not using me as bait." Byung-chul was already moving, pulling his phone out as Dr. Kim began unpacking supplies. "It's not up for discussion." "The hell it isn't." Felicity grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her. "Jennifer is my friend, my responsibility. You don't get to make decisions about her life. And you don't get to make decisions about yours." His expression was carved from stone, not when it comes to walking into Minho's trap. It's not a trap if we know it's coming. That's exactly what makes it a trap. Byung-chul's free hand came up to cup her face, and the gentleness contrasted sharply with the violence still staining his hands. "He knows I'll do anything to keep you safe. He's counting on it. The moment you step into his territory, you're both dead." "Then what's your plan? Let Jennifer die?" "My plan is to keep you alive." His thumb brushed her cheekbone, and despite her anger, heat flooded through her at the touch. "Everything else is secondary." The words should have been romantic. Instead, they terrified her, because Felicity could see it in his eyes. He meant it. He would let Jennifer die, let 100 people die if it meant keeping her safe. "I can't let that happen," Felicity whispered. "She's only in danger because of me. Because you—" She stopped, but they both knew how the sentence ended. "Because you wanted me." "Sit down," Dr. Kim interrupted, gesturing to Byung-chul. "You're dripping blood on Italian marble." Byung-chul's jaw clenched, but he sat. Felicity stepped back, putting distance between them before his touch could cloud her judgment. "While he works, tell me everything. Where Jennifer is. What Minho wants." For a moment, she thought he'd refuse. Then something in her expression made him relent. "Minho runs his operation out of a warehouse in Yongsan, former textile factory. He's holding your friend there." Byung-chul pulled up his phone, showed her a photo that made her stomach drop. Jennifer was tied to a chair, mouth gagged, eyes wide with terror. "He wants you there in 2 hours, alone." Byung-chul's voice was flat. Says if I show up, she dies before I clear the door. Then I go alone. No. Byung-chul, no. He caught her wrist, his grip gentle but unyielding. I won't watch another person I care about walk into that warehouse. The words hung between them. Another person. Felicity's breath caught. Who? His jaw clenched. Dr. Kim glanced up from his stitching but said nothing. My brother, Byung-chul finally said. 5 years ago, Min-ho took him the same way. Hostage, trade, 2 hours. I went in with a team. His voice went hollow. Got there in time to watch Min-ho put a bullet in his head. The raw pain made Felicity's chest ache. She moved closer without thinking, her hand covering his. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, be smart. His fingers tightened around hers. Min-ho doesn't trade. He kills. That's all he's ever done. But here's what Felicity understood in that moment, something Byung-chul couldn't see through his fear. Min-ho had made a critical mistake. He'd underestimated her, assumed she was just some prize to be won. He didn't know she'd survive situations that would have broken most people, and he definitely didn't know she had no intention of playing by anyone's rules. Okay, Felicity said quietly. So we don't trade. What do we do? Byung-chul studied her face, clearly surprised she'd backed down. We wait. I have people tracking every exit from that warehouse. The moment Jennifer moves, we extract her. And if she doesn't move, then we deal with it. His voice was cold, but you stay here, safe. Dr. Kim tied off the last stitch. Done. Try not to get stabbed again this week. Byung-chul stood, testing his mobility. The professional wrap was visible beneath his ruined shirt, and Felicity found herself tracking the movement of his body, the way his muscles shifted despite the injury. She forced her gaze away. I need to use the bathroom. His eyes narrowed slightly, but he nodded. Down the hall, second door. Felicity walked calmly to the bathroom, closed the door, and leaned against it. Her heart hammered as she pulled out her phone. There had to be another way. Some option Byung-chul wasn't seeing because his fear for her was clouding his judgment. She scrolled through her contacts, looking for anything, anyone who could help. Her hand hovered over the embassy number. Then she remembered what Byung-chul had said. They wouldn't help, not against him. What about the police? Seoul had to have some kind of emergency services, didn't they? Some way to report a kidnapping without it being traced back to her immediately? But even as she thought it, Felicity knew it was useless. This was Byung-chul's world, his city, and she was playing a game she didn't understand with rules she couldn't see. She flushed the toilet for authenticity and walked back out. Byung-chul was on his phone, his expression tense. He looked up when she entered. We have a problem. Min-ho just moved up the timeline. 30 minutes now, not 2 hours. Ice flooded Felicity's veins. Why? Because he knows I'm planning something. He's forcing my hand before I can mobilize. Byung-chul moved toward her, and she saw desperation creeping into his carefully controlled expression. Felicity, I need you to trust me. Stay here. Let me handle this. She met his eyes. The lie she was about to tell felt like acid on her tongue. Okay? His shoulders relaxed slightly. He pulled her close, one hand sliding into her hair as he pressed his forehead against hers. I promise I'll get her out. I know. Felicity's hands fisted in his shirt, holding on to him like he was the only solid thing in a world that had tilted sideways. Just come back. Please. Always. His mouth found hers in a kiss that was desperate and claiming, his free hand gripping her hip hard enough to leave marks. Felicity kissed him back with everything she had, all the fear and wanting and impossible feelings she couldn't name. When he pulled back, they were both breathing hard. I need to go. His thumb traced her swollen lower lip. Dr. Kim will stay with you. Be careful. Something flickered in his eyes. Vulnerability, maybe, or fear he wouldn't let himself name. I'm always careful. Then he was moving, grabbing weapons from hidden compartments, his entire demeanor shifting into something cold and lethal. Felicity watched him check his gun, watched the way he moved with deadly purpose, and felt her heart crack, because she knew what she had to do, and he was going to hate her for it. The elevator doors closed behind him, and Felicity was alone with Dr. Kim. "He cares about you," the doctor said quietly in English, breaking the silence. "More than I've seen him care about anyone since his brother died." "I know." Felicity's voice was barely a whisper. "That's what scares me." She moved to the windows, staring out at Seoul's glittering skyline. Somewhere out there, Jennifer was terrified and alone. Somewhere out there, Byung-chul was walking into danger because of her, and Felicity was trapped in this golden cage, useless and safe while everyone else paid the price for his obsession with keeping her alive. Her phone was still in her pocket. The embassy number was still in her contacts. The police, someone had to care about an American woman being held hostage, didn't they? But what Felicity didn't know yet, what she couldn't possibly know as she stood there weighing impossible choices, was that the decision she was about to make wouldn't just save Jennifer or doom Byung-chul. It would reveal a truth that would shatter everything she thought she knew about the man who'd claimed her as his. And by the time she realized her mistake, it would be far too late to take it back. Dr. Kim's phone rang. He answered in rapid Korean, his expression darkening with each word. When he hung up, he looked at Felicity with something close to dread. "What?" Her heart hammered. "What happened?" "Minho knows where you are." Dr. Kim was already moving, pulling a weapon from his jacket. "He sent a team. They'll be here in less than 10 minutes. The penthouse suddenly felt like a trap instead of a sanctuary. How does he... It doesn't matter how. Dr. Kim grabbed her arm. "We need to move, now." "What about Byung-chul? Does he know?" "He's on his way back, but he won't make it in time." Dr. Kim pulled her toward the panic room. "You need to hide. Lock yourself in. Don't come out for anyone but him." "What are you going to do?" Dr. Kim checked his weapon with practiced efficiency. "Buy you time." And Felicity realized with a jolt of terror that the doctor, this man who'd stitched up Byung-chul with steady hands and dry humor, was about to die for her. All because Lee Byung-chul had looked at her 3 days ago and decided she was worth everything. Felicity ran. Dr. Kim shoved her toward the panic room as footsteps thundered in the stairwell, multiple sets getting closer. She stumbled inside, turned to see him taking position by the elevator, weapon raised. "Lock it," he ordered. "Don't open for anyone but Byung-chul." "Wait!" The door sealed shut with a hydraulic hiss, cutting off her protest. Felicity's hands shook as she engaged the locks, then turned to the monitors showing security feeds. What she saw made her blood run cold. 8 men poured into the penthouse, armed, tactical, moving with military precision. Dr. Kim got off 3 shots before they returned fire. Felicity watched him go down, watched blood bloom across his chest, watched him stop moving. She pressed her fist against her mouth to keep from screaming. The men spread through the penthouse systematically, checking rooms. One stopped in front of the closet where she hid. Felicity held her breath as he yanked open the door, revealing the false wall. His hand moved toward the seam. Then gunfire erupted from the living room. Byung-chul. Felicity watched through the monitors as he materialized like vengeance itself. No hesitation, no mercy. He'd come back for her, and now he was tearing through Minho's men with brutal efficiency that should have terrified her. It didn't. It made her feel safe. 3 men down in seconds. 4. The remaining ones scattered, but Byung-chul was relentless. He moved through his own home like a predator who knew every shadow, every angle. One man made it to the panic room closet. Byung-chul put 2 bullets in his back before he could touch the keypad. Then silence. Heavy, terrible silence. Felicity watched Byung-chul check each body, ensuring they were dead. Then he moved to Dr. Kim, knelt beside him. Even through the grainy feed, she could see his shoulders tighten, see him close the doctor's eyes with a gentleness that made her chest ache. He'd lost another person protecting her. Byung-chul stood, faced the camera directly, Blood spattered his face and hands. His expression was devastated, furious, and absolutely unforgiving. "Open the door, Felicity." His voice came through the intercom, rough and commanding. Felicity's fingers trembled as she unlocked the panic room. The wall swung open, and there he was, covered in blood and violence, eyes burning with intensity that stole her breath. "Are you hurt?" His hands were on her immediately, checking for injuries with professional efficiency that couldn't hide the desperation underneath. "No, I'm fine, but Dr. Kim is dead." Byung-chul's voice was flat, because Min-ho knew exactly where to send his men. The accusation in his tone made her throat tight. Before she could respond, his phone rang. He checked the screen, and every muscle in his body went rigid. "What?" Felicity whispered. He answered, listened for 30 seconds without speaking, his jaw clenched tighter with each word. When he hung up, the look in his eyes made her stomach drop. "Jennifer escaped." His voice was carefully controlled. "Police had her in protective custody. She gave them a statement about the warehouse, about Min-ho, about me." Relief flooded through Felicity. "She's safe? For now." Byung-chul moved to the weapons cache, began loading magazines with mechanical precision. But Min-ho knows the police have his location. He's evacuating the warehouse, which means he's about to disappear. And when he does, he'll spend the rest of his life hunting you. But here's what neither of them knew yet. Min-ho wasn't evacuating. He was setting a trap, using the police response as cover for the final move in a game he'd been playing since the moment Byung-chul had looked at Felicity in that hotel bar. "So what do we do?" Felicity asked. "We end this, tonight." He loaded his weapon, the sound of metal on metal sharp in the quiet penthouse. "I'm going to that warehouse and I'm killing Min-ho before he disappears." "Then I'm coming with you." Byung-chul's head snapped up. "Absolutely not. You don't get to decide that anymore." Felicity moved toward him, planted her feet. "I'm done hiding while people die for me. I'm done being the reason you lose everyone you care about. You think I'm taking you into a war zone? I think you're going to die if you go alone." Her voice shook, but didn't break. "Min-ho wants me. He's using Jennifer as bait because he knows you'll come, but he's also counting on you coming without me. Which is exactly why you're staying here." "No." Felicity grabbed his arm, forced him to look at her. "I'm a nurse. I've walked into active shootings. I've talked down armed addicts. I've seen violence you can't imagine, and I'm still standing." Her fingers tightened. "I'm not some fragile thing that needs protecting. I'm the woman you chose. So let me choose you back." Byung-chul stared at her, and something shifted in his expression. The desperate need to keep her safe warring with respect for the strength he saw in her eyes. "If you come," he said slowly, "you follow my orders. Exactly. No questions. Done. And if things go wrong, they won't." Felicity stepped closer, her hand sliding up to cup his face. "Because we're walking into hell together, and we're walking out together." His forehead pressed against hers. "You're going to be the death of me. Not if Min-ho gets you first." Despite everything, his lips twitched. Then he kissed her, hard and desperate and claiming, before pulling back. "Let's go finish this." 20 minutes later, they pulled up 3 blocks from the warehouse. Byung-chul had changed into tactical gear, given Felicity a Kevlar vest that was too big, but better than nothing. His team, 4 men who'd materialized from nowhere, flanked them in 2 other vehicles. "Police are still on scene," one of them reported in English for Felicity's benefit. "Creating chaos, Min-ho's men are scattered." "Good." Byung-chul's voice was ice. "We go in through the east entrance, 2 teams. Felicity stays with me." They moved through Seoul's back alleys like shadows. Felicity's heart hammered, but her hands were steady. Years of emergency room training had taught her to function through adrenaline, to think clearly when everything was chaos. The warehouse loomed ahead, 3 stories of rusted metal and broken windows. Police lights flashed at the main entrance. Byung-chul led them around back, to a service door that looked abandoned. He picked the lock in seconds. Inside the warehouse was a maze of shipping containers and industrial equipment. Voices echoed from somewhere above. Korean shouting, the sounds of people evacuating in panic. Byung-chul moved forward with his weapon raised. Felicity stayed close, exactly as he'd ordered. His team split off, disappearing into the shadows. They cleared the first floor. Empty. Second floor, same. But on the third floor, they found him. Min-ho stood in what looked like an office, surrounded by 6 armed men, and tied to a chair in the center of the room, mouth gagged and eyes wide with renewed terror, was Jennifer. Felicity's stomach dropped. "You said she was with the police." "I lied." Min-ho's voice was smooth, accented, absolutely terrifying in its pleasantness. Or rather, my contact at the police department lied to Lee Byung-chul. Your friend never left my custody. Byung-chul's weapon never wavered. Let her go. Why would I do that? She's the only reason you're here. Min-ho smiled. Well, her and your fascinating attachment to Ms. Washington. Tell me, how does it feel knowing everyone you touch dies because of her? Let her go. Or what? You'll shoot me? You're outnumbered? Outgunned, and the moment you fire, my men kill the nurse. Min-ho's eyes shifted to Felicity. Hello, Ms. Washington. You're even more beautiful in person. I can see why he's obsessed. Felicity's skin crawled under his gaze. This is between us, Byung-chul said. Let both of them go. Keep me. No. Felicity started, but Byung-chul's hand shot out, silencing her. That's quite the offer. Min-ho pretended to consider it. But I think I have a better idea. You drop your weapon, or I have my men execute Ms. Washington's friend while you both watch. The standoff stretched. Felicity could see Byung-chul calculating odds, angles, possibilities. Could see him coming to the same conclusion she was. There was no clean way out of this. Don't, Felicity whispered. Don't trade yourself. I have to. His voice was barely audible. No, you don't. She stepped forward before he could stop her, moving into the open where Min-ho could see her clearly. You want me? Take me. Let them both go. Felicity. Byung-chul's voice was sharp with panic. No deal, Min-ho said. I want all 3 of you, and I think... The explosion rocked the building. Byung-chul's team had breached the east wall, and suddenly everything was chaos. Smoke filled the room. Gunfire erupted. Felicity hit the ground as Byung-chul returned fire, taking down 2 of Min-ho's men in seconds. Through the smoke, she saw Jennifer's chair tip over. Saw Min-ho drawing a weapon, aiming at Byung-chul's back. Felicity didn't think. She lunged, grabbed a metal pipe from the floor, and swung with all her strength. The pipe connected with Min-ho's arm. His shot went wild. He spun toward her, fury twisting his features. You bitch! Byung-chul's bullet caught him center mass. Min-ho staggered, looked down at the blood blooming across his chest, then back up at Byung-chul with something like respect. She was worth it, he said. Then he collapsed. The gunfire stopped. Byung-chul's team had neutralized the remaining men. In the sudden silence, Felicity's ears rang. Byung-chul was at her side in seconds, hands checking her for injuries. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? I'm fine. She was shaking now, adrenaline crashing. Jennifer, I've got her. One of Byung-chul's men was already cutting her colleague free, removing the gag. Jennifer sobbed, clutching at him like a lifeline. Police sirens wailed closer. Byung-chul's expression hardened. We need to move. Now. The police will arrest all of us if we're still here when they arrive. He grabbed her hand. Trust me. One more time. Felicity looked at Jennifer, traumatized but alive. Looked at the dead men around them. Looked at Byung-chul covered in blood and asking her to run. Together, she said. Together. They ran into Seoul's night, leaving behind the violence and the bodies, and the man who'd tried to destroy them. Ahead lay questions, consequences, a future neither had planned, but they'd face it together. And that, Felicity realized as Byung-chul's hand tightened around hers, was all that mattered. 6 months later, Felicity Washington woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of someone singing off-key in the kitchen. She smiled before she even opened her eyes, because 6 months ago, she never would have imagined this, waking up in an Atlanta apartment 3 blocks from Emory Hospital, safe and whole, with Lee Byung-chul attempting to murder a Sam Cooke song while making breakfast. She patted downstairs in one of his t-shirts, finding him at the stove. No suit today, just gray sweatpants and a white tank that showed off the tiger tattoo wrapping around his shoulder. He'd let his hair grow out slightly, looked softer around the edges in a way that made her heart squeeze. "You're butchering that song," Felicity said. Byung-chul glanced over his shoulder, and the smile he gave her, unguarded, genuine, hers, still made her breath catch. "You're one to talk. I've heard you in the shower." "That's different. Shower acoustics are terrible." She moved behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist, pressed her cheek against his back. "What are you making?" "Kimchi fried rice, with bacon, because you're a bad influence." "The best influence." Felicity breathed in sandalwood and coffee and home. "Jennifer called yesterday." She felt him tense slightly. "How is she?" "Good. Back at work, in therapy. She's processing." Felicity's hands tightened. "She asked about you again, wanted to know if you were adjusting." "Adjusting?" Byung-chul turned off the stove, turned in her arms. "Is that what we're calling it?" "What would you call it?" "Starting over." His hands came up to frame her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "Building something new with the woman who saved my life. Pretty sure you saved mine. We saved each other." He kissed her forehead. "Multiple times. It's getting hard to keep score." Felicity laughed, and the sound still felt like a miracle. Because 6 months ago, running from that warehouse with police sirens wailing and Min-ho's blood on her hands, she'd been terrified they wouldn't survive the aftermath. But Byung-chul had made it work, called in favors, leveraged information, made deals with people she'd never meet. He'd given testimony that brought down 3 trafficking rings, provided intelligence that shut down operations across Asia. In exchange, they'd let him walk away, let him disappear into a new life with a nursing student from Atlanta who'd gotten caught in the crossfire. The official story was simple. Wrong place, wrong time, traumatized victim. The truth was infinitely more complicated. "Your shift starts in an hour," Byung-chul said, pulling her from her thoughts. "I know." But she didn't move, just stood there in his arms, marveling at the impossibility of this. "Do you miss it? Seoul, the empire you built." He was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes. I miss the control, the power, knowing I could shape the world with a phone call." His hand slid down to her waist. "But then I wake up next to you and you're real and alive in mine, and I realize I don't miss it at all." "Liar." "Okay, maybe a little." His lips quirked. "But you're worth more than any empire, Felicity Washington. You always were." She stretched up to kiss him, slow and deep and grateful before pulling back. "I need to get ready for work. I'll drive you." "You don't have to." "I want to." His voice dropped, went serious. "I still want to, every day. Making you coffee, driving you to work, cooking you dinner, all the boring, normal things I never thought I'd have." Felicity's throat went tight. "Me too." An hour later, Byung-chul pulled up outside Emory Hospital. Felicity gathered her bag, but his hand caught her wrist. "What?" she asked. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small velvet box. Felicity's heart stopped. "I'm not proposing," he said quickly, reading her expression. "Not yet, not until you're ready." He opened the box, revealing a delicate gold ring with a single diamond. "But I wanted you to have this, to know that when you are ready, I'll be here, waiting, for however long it takes." Felicity stared at the ring, then at him, at the man who'd burned down his empire for her, who'd killed for her, who now spent his days volunteering at the community center, teaching self-defense, and his nights cooking her dinner. "Ask me," she whispered. "What?" Ask me. Right now. I'm ready. Byung-chul's eyes widened. Felicity, 6 months ago you told me I was worth everything, that you'd burn down Seoul to keep me safe. Her hand covered his, the one holding the ring. You proved it. Every single day since. So ask me. He stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly a smile spread across his face. The real one, the one that transformed him from dangerous to devastating. Marry me, he said. Marry me and let me spend the rest of my life proving you made the right choice. Yes? Felicity was crying now, laughing through tears. Yes, obviously, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, then pulled her across the console to kiss her properly. Someone honked behind them. Neither of them cared. When they finally broke apart, Felicity was late for her shift and completely unconcerned. I love you, she said. The first time either of them had spoken the words aloud. I love you. Byung-chul's thumb traced her jaw. My impossible, reckless, beautiful woman. I love you more than anything. Even your empire? Especially my empire. He kissed her once more, gentle and reverent. Now go save some lives. I'll be here when you get off. You better be. Felicity walked into Emory Hospital with a ring on her finger and a future she'd never imagined. Behind her, Lee Byung-chul watched until she disappeared through the doors, his hand pressed against his chest where his heart beat steady and sure. For the first time in 15 years, he was free. And it was all because a woman with curves like sin and a laugh like sunlight had collided with him in a Seoul hotel bar and refused to be anything less than exactly who she was. Too loud, too bold, too much, exactly enough. So, Felicity went from Korean men don't like thick women to getting a proposal from Seoul's most dangerous man. If that journey hit different for you, show some love with a like. Comment your favorite moment. I want to know what scene had you screaming. And subscribe if you need more stories about women who are told they're too much, finding men who think they're exactly enough, because we're just getting started.